Hey y'all, welcome back to Carbon Scoring, the best place for action figures and comics history. In this video series, we're taking a look at all the Marvel Legends figures created of Spider-Man's friends and foes. We started with Spidey's co-creator Steve Ditko and the amazing rogues gallery he created. Then we moved on to John Romita Sr. and how he took the title to new heights. But in the 1970s, Spider-Man was dominated by two dynamic artists, Gill Kane and Andru. Let's go.
Carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Welcome back to part 3 of our tour through every Marvel Legends figure created of Spider-Man's amazing rogues gallery. As always, we at Carbon Scoring do this through the lens of comics history, because you can't talk about these incredible characters and action figures without delving into the creators behind them. Our first video focused on Spidey's co-creator Steve Ditko and the astonishing 25 unique villains he created during his 3 years on the title. Next, we looked at how Jazzy Johnny Romita took Spider-Man to new heights, making it Marvel's best-selling comic with his clean lines and heroic proportions, establishing the look of Spidey for decades. But with the dawning of the 1970s, The Amazing Spider-Man was firmly entrenched as Marvel's flagship title, and it was up to two men to carry the book artistically through the me decade, Gill Kane and Andru. Gill Kane was born in Latvia in 1926, but his family moved to Brooklyn when he was 3, and he would go on to study at Manhattan's School of Industrial Art. He started working in comics at age 16 for Archie and would go on to grow and evolve for over 50 years in the industry. But unlike the reclusive Ditko or the workaholic Kirby, who was always ink-stained and hunched over a drawing board, Gill Kane was tall and thin, always nattily dressed, with an almost aristocratic air about him. He will forever be linked to his 1950s work at DC, co-creating the Silver Age versions of Green Lantern and the Atom, and ushering in a new era of superhero comics. But his skills and style were constantly improving, and by the time he took over as regular artist on The Amazing Spider-Man with issue 89, he was in fine form as a master illustrator and storyteller. Gill Kane's work on Spider-Man comprised 20 issues over a period of 3 years, and he penciled some of the wall crawler's most significant tales during that time, including the death of Captain George Stacy in only his second issue. But Kane's legacy would be cemented with issues 96 through 98, the famous drug issues. President Nixon's Department of Health and Education and Welfare reached out to Stan Lee in an attempt to publish an anti-drug message in one of Marvel's best-selling titles. But at the time, any mention of illegal drugs, even against their use, was forbidden by the Comics Code, the draconian set of rules put in place after Congress came down hard on comics following the publication of Dr. Frederick Wortham's Seduction of the Innocent. I actually have a copy of Seduction of the Innocent. It's been out of print for years. As it should be, it is a scathing indictment of comics. It also includes such insightful quotes as this: "I think Hitler was a beginner compared to the comic book industry." This book also calls Superman a Nazi. Twice. The drug issue centered around the return of Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, who had discovered Peter's secret identity in the now classic issue 39 of Amazing Spider-Man. Kane's artistry was particularly spectacular in issue 96, as he was inked by Romita Sr. Our story starts with a stoned young man standing on the edge of a rooftop. When he accidentally falls, Spidey swoops in to save him. Peter then considers the encounter, saying to himself he would rather face 100 supervillains than get hooked on hard drugs. Next, Pete and his friends meet up to see MJ perform off-Broadway when Randy Robertson gets into it with Norman Osborn over the drug scene. Randy points out that this isn't just a black issue and challenges Osborn to use his power and influence to do more. It's a powerful sequence, and it really drives home the point that drug use crosses all racial and socioeconomic barriers. Stan Lee really hammers this point home as we see Peter's roommate, the wealthy Harry Osborn, allow his anxiety to lead him down a dark path of illicit drug use, becoming more and more dependent as the story goes on. Gil Kane's artistry skillfully shows Harry's descent deep into addiction. Stan crafted a potent anti-drug message directed at his entire audience, and he did it in a way that actually served the Green Goblin storyline that he was telling. But the Comics Code wouldn't approve it, so Stan made the gutsy and unprecedented call to publish the books without the Code's approval. The drug issues would prove to be Stan's swan song writing the book, as Roy Thomas soon took over. And his pairing with Kane would lead to several new characters, beginning with Morbius the Living Vampire. Dr. Michael Morbius first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man 101. Born with a rare blood condition, he used his PhD in biochemistry in an attempt to cure himself by mixing vampire bat DNA with electroshock therapy. It didn't work, and he was turned into a pseudo-vampire. Oddly enough, vampires were banned by the Comics Code until 1971, when they updated their standards in the wake of the publication of the drug issues. This led to Marvel producing a slew of monster titles. Another Kane creation along that same vein was Man-Wolf. Astronaut John Jameson appeared in the very first issue of Spider-Man, but on a subsequent moon mission, he discovered a ruby gemstone which transformed him into Man-Wolf. Toy Biz produced this zany figure back in 2005 in the Spider-Man Classics line. While we could use an update, the very fact that this toy exists is a testament to the power of this hobby. Gil Kane also drew Marvel Team Up issue 19, which featured the first appearance of Stegron. While technically not a Marvel legend, Toy Biz did make this figure all the way back in 1998 as a part of their supervillain Vault line. All we really need to finish our Gil Kane action figure collection is the Human Fly from Spidey Annual 10 and Gog from issue 103. After Kane completed his run, Ross Andru picked up the reins as the primary artist on The Amazing Spider-Man, penciling 55 of the next 60 issues from 1973 to 1978. Just like Gil Kane, Ross Andru was the son of immigrants, his parents having come to America from Russia in 1926. He graduated from New York's High School of Music and Art before moving into comics, co-creating the Metal Men at DC in 1962, and he was also the primary artist on Wonder Woman for 9 years before coming over to Marvel. Andru may be Spider-Man's least appreciated great artist, as his style blended the muscularity of Romita's Spidey with the litheness and contortions of Ditko, all the while being a master of movement and action. Frequent collaborator Jerry Conway said, Andru had a terrific sense of spatial relations. He drew some great sequences where he maintained the same stationary background, but moved the characters from panel to panel. Andru is also known for his love of New York City and his habit of carrying a camera with him everywhere. Again, Conway says, he used to come to my apartment for dinner, and we would go up to the roof to take pictures. There are scenes in those Spidey comics that are set on the roof of my apartment building. Special thanks to Robert Connor, whose excellent research I'm sharing here. Andru got off to a roaring start in co-creating the Jackal, who made his Marvel Legends debut in 2016. While Professor Warren dates back to the Ditko days, his alter ego of the Jackal first appeared in issue 129. He would go on to have a monumental effect on the Webhead's life by initiating the Clone Saga. We're going to talk a lot more about that in future episodes. He also co-created Trantula in issue 134. Anton Miguel Rodriguez was a mercenary from the fictional South American Republic of Delvadia. This 2009 figure sports the classic Andru designed costume. I'd love to see an updated version of this character. One of Andru's underappreciated talents is his ability to infuse humor into his art. We saw this with characters like Grizzly and Big Wheel, but it was never more apparent than with the Spider Buggy, possibly the stupidest yet most strangely endearing concept ever introduced in Spidey comics. I mean, heck, I bought one. There are still 2 Andru characters never before rendered in plastic that we desperately need, Will-O-the-Wisp and Rocket Racer, who may just be at the very top of my action figure wish list. But far and away, the most influential character from Ross Andru's Spider-Man run is Frank Castle, the Punisher. Frank has had his every version made into action figure form. But for his first appearance, I gotta go with Toy Biz's 2006 Face-Off figure, as it perfectly captures the Punisher's look from Amazing Spider-Man 129. So the next time you see some redneck sporting one of these, remember, it was the son of Russian immigrants that helped make it possible. There was one more prominent character introduced right at the end of the 1970s. Felicia Hardy first appeared as the Black Cat in Amazing Spider-Man 194 in July of 1979. Throughout the 1980s, she would play a pivotal role in the life of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. We'll venture into the 80s soon enough, when family traditions, be they Romita or Goblin, come to the fore. Until then, check out our other videos. Give us a like, hit the notification bell, and become a subscriber to the best place for comics history and action figures, Carbon Scoring.